That's what happens. You get back into the swing of things, huh? Jeez. Let's try this again. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Strategy Show. My God, that was a pretty good intro as well. Ah, we're back. How about now? We good? We good? What I was saying is I missed over a week, but really only missed 2 slates. Monday through Thursday wouldn't have been a show anyway. I'm glad you guys are here. I missed you all. If you don't mind, atone for your sins this fine morning. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. It goes a long way, and I appreciate you for it. The NFL Hall of Fame game is about 2 weeks away. Football is quickly approaching. We still got baseball, though. 14-game monster slate today. Monster. This is no joke. I think it's the biggest slate we've had all season, and it's on a Monday. Obviously, coming back from the break, you're going to get weird things like this, but even the Tuesday games and the Friday games, there's always enough 6 p.m. games to kind of keep it a little bit down. You get your 10, 11 games and all that stuff. All day capper. Been working on that intro all vacation. Brother, I didn't think about a single intro or thing about work all vacation. I'll tell you that much. But no, we're here. We're here. I like this slate. Here's the weird thing about this. A lot of times people will see something like this, it's 14 gamer and be like, man, it's going to take us 5 hours to do this whole slate. I actually think it's the opposite. Sometimes on this show, we'll spend a lot more time breaking down like a 5, 6, 7 game slate because there's so much more nuance involved, and guys that typically wouldn't be viable or teams that typically wouldn't look good end up becoming, they're in play just because they have to be. Whereas with a 14-game slate, you can eschew many of the teams and pitchers on the slate entirely. Like, you don't really even have to talk about them. And it's not out of laziness. It's out of like, all right, well, ownership's going to be so spread out from a stacking perspective and everything else that why do we need to get crazy? Now, don't get me wrong. The Wrigley game has 16-mile-per-hour winds blowing out with Flaherty on the mound and Tyon coming back from the IL. It's 96 degrees at Coors Field. None of that's lost on me, right? But at the same time, you got 28 teams going today. Anyway, let's get into it. Thanks, man. I'm glad to be back. Absolutely glad to be back. And yes, we did cook the ostrich egg. I have a video of it. I'll send it to you guys. I used a hacksaw. My brother-in-law, I used a hacksaw. He was there with me. And much of the ladies, the wives, and the children in the family were grossed out by it. But it tasted like a regular chicken egg, dude. It was good. Would I do it again? No. But I never intended on doing it again. It was for the novelty of it all. So let me pull up the data. By the way, if you guys don't mind, if you're over there on X, hit me with a retweet or a like on the live stream coming from the Stochastic handle. Goes a long way. So thanks for that. Let's get into this a little bit. I got the data hub pulled up right here. Now, if there's one thing, Humble, I'm approximating like 24 eggs, dude. We actually had to throw a few out. It was crazy. Yes, I have a video of me opening it, Jenna. So I'll post that on X for sure. Buck TV had to watch RotoWire because you were gone, brother. Josh does a good job, man. You don't have to go to RotoWire. But I'm glad you've come back, and I sincerely appreciate the loyalty. So Miserowski's on the mound today. Dylan Cease is on the mound today. Mind you, like the two guys that just have the nastiest stuff right now in the league. I honestly feel like it's fair to say that. There's another guy that I may get pushed back on. Dude, whenever I say this to people around me, they're Phillies fans, but they're not like, they're fans, but they don't truly understand the game like we do. Whenever I tell them, I'm like, Jesus Luzardo might be the best pitcher in this rotation. They're like, what are you talking about, man? That guy's not good. Yeah, he is. Jesus Luzardo, I think, has been maybe the unluckiest pitcher at times, was tipping his pitches. When none of that's happening, Jesus Luzardo is like a top 5 pitcher. So I talk about, like, obviously not in the same breath as a Miserowski or Dylan Cease, but I was going to mention Sanchez, but Sanchez just hasn't been that great recently. Luzardo's so nasty. I don't know what got me U-turning into that, but Miserowski, Dylan Cease. You have DeGrom against the White Sox. Sanchez is on the mound today against the Dodgers. He's oddly struggled at home. There's a guy, though, we're going to be talking about today. George Kirby. I know he's expensive, and I understand the opportunity cost there is significant when you've got so many good pitchers on the mound. But the question I've been asking myself this morning, and the question that I've been asking that I want to ask you guys, is, despite the opportunity cost on a guy like George Kirby, are enough of the pieces of the puzzle coming together, right? Do the stars align enough in this spot to where George Kirby, despite not having the same upside as some of those guys, still looks good enough for us to get over the field on today? I'm genuinely leaning yes. And here's one of the reasons I'm leaning yes. I like Dylan Cease. He's an excellent pitcher. Don't love the strikeout matchup, but that hasn't really stopped him in a lot of spots this year. 10,500 is probably a bit underpriced on him to begin with, but he's getting 25% ownership. Crazy? No, it's a 14-game slate. So that's whatever. You know, if this were an 8-game slate, Miserowski might be 60%. He's 34% at 12K against the Mets. Jacob deGrom, not getting a ton of ownership. Great pitcher, good spot against the White Sox. Sanchez, I can't imagine I get to much of him today at 11K. I'd rather pay down for Cease or up for Miserowski. He's bookended by 2 guys that I would just rather play. But then I keep coming back to George Kirby and going, all right, let's talk about somebody who is in a matchup that is impossible to ignore. Like this Kirby matchup against the Reds, mind you, in case you haven't looked yet, not at Great American Ballpark. It's in Seattle, one of the most pitcher-friendly venues around, arguably the most pitcher-friendly venue around. You look at the Reds, and this active roster has a 24% strikeout rate, but it gets better than that. It's not just that they're at 24% on the active roster against righties. Do they have some power? Do they have some pop? Yeah, 171 ISO, which is pretty strongly negated by where they're playing today. Not at home. Also, what a massive distinction as far as power parks go. You have Great American, which balls just fly out of there, especially in the summer months, and then T-Mobile Park, where it's not easy to homer at all. One of the worst, probably the worst homer park in the league. But the Reds have a 90 WRC plus against righties. Their active roster is tied for dead last in the league. Why is this EMAC? EMAC, I love you, but I forgot to change the ticker. There you go. So, all in all, it's just bad. And I think George Kirby deserves a really, really strong look today. Now, you can also go into the strikeout market and see what we've got going here. We're not dumb, right? We know that George Kirby's not going to have the same K prop as Miserowski or Dylan Cease, but it is 6.5 juice to the over. He has an outs prop of 18.5 today and an earned run prop that surely has to be at 1.5. It's at 1.5. It's pretty good. Again, it's just an opportunity cost thing. I can say that with certainty. Like, I'm not paying 9K or whatever it is for Jose Soriano today. I'm just not doing it. Andrew Abbott is somewhat enticing in that park, if you wanted to get real weird there. But 4.5K prop juice to the over. Like Nick Martinez, Emmett Sheehan, Joe Ryan's the lone 6 o'clock game here. Sanchez at 6.5, but again, 11K going up against the Dodgers, 85 degrees in Philly, where he's actually been much worse than he has been on the road, which is strange. about Christopher Sanchez, is it not? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got that backwards. Luzardo's been worse at home, better on the road. Sanchez has been unhittable at home and better on the road. My fault. Got those backwards. So maybe Sanchez, decent option there. I don't really care too much about the home and road splits to begin with. I just think he looks less appealing regardless. Shane Baz, 5.5. That's against the White Sox. Kirby, 6.5. But if we come down here a little bit, like you're not going the Flaherty in this spot. Miserowski's at 8.5 with juice to the over, or 9.5 juice to the under, but still ridiculous K prop there. Who else? DeGrom's at 6.5. Like DeGrom looks very similar to Kirby today. Did I miss Dylan Cease? Where's Dylan Cease at? 7.5, minus 140 to the under. So I don't know, man. I think Kirby just looks good. Kirby has a higher outs prop. Earn run prop on Dylan Cease is 1.5. So same as Kirby. But when you look in the data hub today and you say, all right, what's the top 2 pitcher probability on these guys? Well, Jake, Miserowski was scratched from his last start before the All-Star break with arm fatigue. Yeah, I suppose when you're throwing 180 miles per hour. Yeah. Here's what I would say though. When you talk about arm fatigue, could he be limited? It's possible, but he's thrown a lot of innings this year. You had the All-Star break approaching. It may have just been this very possibly could have just been an opportunistic time for them to be like, all right, you know what? Let's give him a little bit of a rest. Because 1.5 earn run prop, but the outs prop, let's see what it is. 17.5 outs prop. I feel like that's kind of standard for Miserowski. Feels pretty standard. Maybe it should be at 18.5, but it's not. Like the over 17.5 is juiced to minus 166 on FanDuel. So I don't think there's anything right now in the prop market at the very least that would suggest that we should be worried about Miserowski. Now, here's the other thing, right? Here's the silver lining to all of this. And Tiffany says, I think Miz is going to do Miz things and have a great game. Yeah, I mean, he should, right? He definitely should. The Mets don't strike out all that much against righties, but it kind of hasn't mattered going up against Miserowski. But what I was getting at is, how much does it matter? If you want to get to some other pitchers today, you can absolutely do that. If Miserowski goes out there and has the, complete game 1-hitter 15 Ks like he did back in June against Philly, it doesn't matter who else you play. You need Miserowski. He dropped damn near 60 DraftKings points in that game. But if you get closer to what you've seen from him on the season, a 30 spot, a 28 spot, whatever that may be, don't get me wrong, that's good. A 33 for Miserowski is good, but he's $12,000. Are there other pitchers on this slate where if you faded Jacob Miserowski, you'd be okay? Possibly. Absolutely possibly, put it that way. I'm saying we don't know. He might just go out there and mow them down and have another 13 strikeout game. And then it's like, all right, well, I probably should have played Miserowski. But if there was ever a slate where you go, all right, man, if I'm a little bit worried about this arm fatigue, and I'm not saying you should be, but I also am not going to say with certainty at all that he's not going to be limited. I have no clue at all. Remember with Garrett Crochet, because I remember I had an over on his K props, and it's a couple years ago, and he just was absolutely dominating, right? It was with the White Sox in 2024. Remember, before they didn't say anything, and then one day they just decided that they were only going to They were only going to throw him for like 3 innings, and then he was going to start games, and for the rest of the season, he would pitch like 3 innings a start. You guys remember that, right? It started in like early July. Yeah, I'm looking now. And I had over 5.5 strikeouts. He went 4 innings, had 5 strikeouts. It might have been over 6, and whatever it was. Like, then he didn't throw more than 4 innings for the rest of the season. You're never going to run that risk with a guy like Miserowski because this team is in contention. The White Sox weren't. So you have a situation where maybe it's like you only get 5 out of Miserowski, but he could go 5 and strike out 13. You still have a very high floor on this guy. Very high floor. But I like George Kirby quite a bit. I like Dylan Cease here because we talk about Miserowski's K rate on the season. You can't ignore the fact that Dylan Cease is number 2 in all of baseball with a K rate sitting at 37%. He walks more than Miserowski. You know, he hasn't been as dominant, but he's been almost as dominant. Pretty damn close. 15% swinging strike rate for Dylan Cease. So let's look at our exposures. We haven't even talked about the cheap guys yet, but I wanted to get to some of those guys to show you that up top there are a lot of good options here. Somebody had mentioned Peyton Tolley today. Yeah, against Baltimore. No issues with someone like him. He looks pretty decent. But top 2 pitcher probability, Miserowski is up there at 31%, Cease at 22, DeGrom at 16, Kirby at 15. So yeah, it does fall off a bit of a cliff, but I don't think it's enough. I could look at Kirby and say he's a great play today. Same with Jacob DeGrom. Ryan Weathers also looks interesting against Pittsburgh. So here's our exposures with 150 lineups. A lot of Miserowski and Cease. A good amount of Ryan Weathers. For $7,700, I understand it. Am I in love with it? Nah, can't say I'm in love with it, but Pittsburgh has a 3.7 run total today. That's a low team total. And at 7,700, if you're getting a guy like Ryan Weathers, who has a 6.5 strikeout prop, I put it up on the screen for you guys right here. A 6.5 K prop for a $7,700 pitcher going up against a team with a 3.7 team total, 17.5 outs prop, probably a 1.5 earned run allowed prop, 2.5. Okay. But still, that's a hard spot to get away from. I do think at that price point, he makes sense. 77 is very inexpensive, especially when you got a Pittsburgh team with the 5th lowest team total on the slate. The only teams that have lower team totals, believe it or not, today than the Pittsburgh Pirates are the Mets against Miserowski, the White Sox against DeGrom, the Rays against Dylan Cease, the Reds against the Seattle Mariners. That's it. No other team has a lower total than the Pirates, than the ones that are going up against the highest priced pitchers on the slate. And I'm not saying, obviously, that you group him into the same bucket as those guys. Of course not. He has an earned run, prop at 2.5. Everyone else is at 1.5. But at 7,700, it does make sense that we'd be getting some exposure to him. Getting 14% Kirby, we're with the field there. That's a spot I'd like to boost personally. Ronel Blanco coming off the IL. I looked at him at 6,600. I don't think that's crazy if he's going to be 2.9% owned. 8% Peyton Tolley. Powered one. Nick Gonzalez and Valdez are going to cause Weathers problems. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Maybe. But he's 7,700. There's still some value there. Malcolm, what's up, dude? Nice to see you. So he has a question. No one's going to run you out of chat here, brother. But we will have an answer for you. Don't run me out of chat, but any Kyle Leahy love today definitely opens your stacks up if you're playing Miserowski. So I don't I don't know how much you need to open things up would be the first thing. How much do we need to open things up? I mean, he's 6,500. It is a spot against the Angels, and we all love that. It's in Anaheim. I would be more so looking at this as a spot where I'm saying it's not necessarily about me trying to get super cheap, because there are options on the table that you can do that with. But more so, do I like the spot enough? And number one, how many pitches is he going to throw? I don't know. I mean, he hasn't thrown 90 pitches since May 16th. Does anyone know why he threw 44 pitches his last time out? That would be my question. I don't have the answer, but I would be curious to see why Kyle Leahy threw 44 pitches last time out. And you know what's always nice? This is why we use the prop market, right? This is why we do something like this, because it can give us an idea of, like, first of all, does he even have an outs prop? 15.5 outs prop, 2.5 earned run prop, strikeout prop, 4.5, 6,500. That's not terrible. Blanco, 4.5 strikeout prop. He probably doesn't even have an outs prop. No, he doesn't. I could see Kyle Leahy being fine. 5% owned right now. We're getting one lineup with him. I honestly could see a guy like Andrew Abbott being okay. The guys I don't really want to get to, though, you look at a guy in Springs. I don't really see the need to do that against a team that doesn't strike out. Eric Fetty, no. Jose Soriano, no. Emmett Sheehan, no. Not much interest there. It's not even that he's bad, but like, is it a necessity today? No. Remember, when you do certain things like this on a 14-game slate, and you try and thread a needle, it's a lot different than fading the chalk on a 5-game slate and going with like a quality pivot where you're getting away from an insanely popular option. Here, look at this for a second, right? If you look at pitcher ownership, this will give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. You have Miserowski and Cease at 34% and 25% respectively. Outside of that, you don't have a single pitcher at 15+%. Even Kirby and DeGrom on any other slate are 30+% owned easy, right? Ryan Weathers in this spot at 7,700, way more popular than 12.9%. Same with Peyton Tolley. Matter of fact, even Braston Ashcraft, all these guys would come up. But you have Dylan Cease and Jacob Miserowski, and Miserowski is just always going to be popular. So is Dylan Cease, because their strikeout stuff is insane, right? Like forget about Miserowski for a second. Cease is coming off an 8-inning, 1-hit, no run, 11 strikeout game. Prior to that, 7 scoreless, 3-hit, 9 Ks. He's been ridiculous this season. And now you've got him pitching deeper into games, whereas previously he was struggling to get through 5 or 6. George, who do we think the steam candidates are? I don't know. You tell me, because I don't see anyone necessarily getting steamed here. Maybe Kirby comes up a bit, but again, it's hard when you have DeGrom and Cease and Miserowski. Clayton, would you boost Kirby, or is about 15% good enough? Honestly, I probably would. I'm not saying it is the correct decision. Okay? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if it's the correct decision, but I do know I like him. Tiffany, only thing with Cease is Toronto doesn't strike out. You mean Tampa, but yes. Tampa, I mean, you're actually correct. Toronto doesn't really strike out either, but he's on Toronto. No, Tampa has the third lowest K rate in the league against righties. No doubt. Matter of fact, Tampa's a rough matchup. They have a 112 WRC plus, so they're top 7 in WRC plus. They're bottom 3 in strikeouts. They're not the most power-laden team in the league. We know that. But they put the ball in play. They're 9th in WOBA. I like George Kirby today, for sure. I think most of us do. The difference is that Miserowski and Cease have strikeout rates that are up there around the 40% range, and George Kirby is at 21.5%. That's a massive difference. George Kirby isn't nearly as capable of minimizing damage or mitigating damage with strikeouts as Miserowski or Cease, or you know what? Probably even Jacob deGrom. But I think he has the best. But here, you know what? I'll put it to you this way. Okay, so think of it like this. George Kirby, I think, based on park and matchup, there's no more favorable condition than George Kirby today. No one gets more favorable conditions than George Kirby today facing the Reds at home at T-Mobile Park. No one's going to push back on that. No one's going to argue that. No, if Jacob Miserowski were pitching at T-Mobile Park today, he might have a 10.5 strikeout prop. Matter of fact, he was in Milwaukee against Cincinnati just a week or two ago, and he had a 9.5 K prop, and he cleared that despite only going 5 innings, and they didn't let him pitch more than, what was it, like 86 pitches or something? Clayton, any Miserowski and Cease lineups, we'll take a look at that for sure. What I want to ask you guys, though, any guys that we're not getting to right now that you have interest in? That's what I want to know. Are there any guys that we're not seeing exposure to that you guys want to get to? And I'll be honest with you. There's nobody that's jumping off the page at me that just screams like, wow, great value, great leverage. Alvarez is in Colorado. It's almost 100 degrees there. Eric Fetty, Kyle Freeland, Jeffrey Springs, Jansen Junk, Kyle Leahy. That's a good call out, though, Malcolm. I don't think that's crazy. We've had such remarkable success targeting like middling righties, using middling righties against the Angels this year, that I don't think Kyle Leahy is all that crazy. If we were going down there into like the cellar, you know, some dumpster dive, sub 7K, he'd be the guy for me. I mean, I don't know what to think of Ronel Blanco. Because what was it? Tommy John surgery, June of 2025. Who knows? Like that, I mean, he's been out for quite some time. Quite some time. Talented, but I don't love him. I don't want Jamison Tyon with winds blowing out 16 at Wrigley. Trevor McDonald, excuse me. He's been up and down, but and against Kansas City, you could probably make an argument that McDonald's okay, but like you don't love him. You're not loving JP Sears, Jack Flaherty in the Wrigley win game, or Jack Flaherty's a guy that I'm always willing to roster in a reasonable spot. Not here. You know who's actually semi-interesting at 7,500? And yeah, Malcolm, I agree. Miami is just not a great matchup, is the truth. Anthony, Emmett Sheehan, I mentioned him. Again, on a 14-game slate, I'm not trying to get too crazy here. Middling Righties is the name of my thrash band. Thanks for the shout out, Lavi. Yeah, of course. I listen to them frequently. Ryan, Cease and Leahy will allow you to get to better stacks, no doubt. But Weathers looks pretty decent too. He's 7,700. Shane Baz is the one that I think looks decent at 7,500. I don't hate that. Matter of fact, I like him more than Freddie Peralta. Shane Baz is not, he's the type of guy, again, that you play him in the right spots because he's wildly inconsistent. But I think Shane Baz actually makes a lot of sense against Boston for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's a righty. You want a righty going up against Boston. They've been significantly better against lefties. Career 23.5% K rate. This year it's only at 20.5%. That sucks, but it's, league average. You can live with that in a good enough matchup. 9% swinging strike rates. I wish I liked that. I wish that was better. He should be better, honestly. But Boston, 307 weighted on base average against righties. You know where that ranks? That ranks 29th in the league. You know where that 90 WRC plus ranks? Well, if you listened earlier, we talked about Cincinnati, same number, tied for dead last. Boston, 153 ISO against righties, bottom 5. Look, I know Boston's hot, but I can only give you the numbers on the season. Hot streaks, cold streaks, all that stuff is great. And I'm not saying they don't exist, but what I am saying is you can't predict when it's going to start or when it's going to end, right? If they're on a 13-game win streak, I could just as easily make the argument that they're not going to win out the season. You know what I mean? Think about that for a second, because people like to talk about this stuff. If you're saying, dude, 13 straight games, can't do it now. So what are you suggesting, that they're just going to win every game? On the other side, you're like, hey, 13 wins in a row is a lot of wins. They can't keep doing that forever. And they are still dead last on the active roster against righties. They still have the 6th highest strikeout rate against righties, the 2nd lowest walk rate against righties. This team, despite winning 13 games in a row, has still been that bad on the year. Now, is it fair to say that they should creep up as the season goes on? Yeah, I think that's fair. But I don't mind Shane Baz. Don't mind them at all, as a matter of fact. And he still has a 17.5 outs prop. He still has, his K prop can't be great, but 5.5's not bad at that price. 2.5 earned runs, not surprising there. He's on the list for me, though. And then it's the rest of the guys we discussed. But they have been hot. Does it matter? I don't think so. I really don't. To me, it doesn't matter enough to where I wouldn't play them. Here's the other great thing, though. It's a 14-game slate. You don't have to play any of these guys if you don't want to, but I would not let those type of things dissuade you from rostering or not rostering a guy. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little surprised we're only getting the 5% DeGrom, but I like that we're getting to Kirby. I would like to get a little bit more of him. Let's talk about some bats. Before we do that, I did not have time today to create another one of these graphics. This was from the week I left for vacation because it was just insane. You guys remember we had 4 straight days where someone took, it was 50K, then 10K, then 50K, then 20K, just nonstop. And everyone shouting out the Sims. That's the greatest thing. You come in, people who use the tools have had awesome experiences with them. Is everyone going to jump right in and win 10K? No, obviously not. You know what I mean? 20, 50K. No, but the tools are awesome and they will make you a better player. And if you haven't checked them out yet, 15% off with MLB Strategy. The link is always in the description. Hell, you can come back tomorrow or tonight or this afternoon. You don't need to do it right now, although why wait? MLB Strategy is the code to get you 15% off anything. That includes weekly, monthly, or all access, which all access, by the way, that's a huge discount. Core or max, no matter what. We got you covered always right here on the MLB Strategy Show. You see the stochastic avatars littered across the leaderboard, and you go, you know, maybe I'll join them. I'm tired of looking up. I want to look down at people. It's more fun to look down at people, isn't it? Well, grab it for 15% off MLB Strategy. And for those of you guys who asked, because we did have people ask when they won, Laffy, you know, put me in the collage. I'll have one made for tomorrow morning on the Tuesday show. Your name will be up there. We had a ton of wins while I was away. Just didn't have time to get all that done this morning. But anyway, let's look at some bats. Here's a fun one for you fellas. Give me who you think, and I have no idea. I haven't looked yet. Top three. Yesterday, guy won MLB Rally on FanDuel first and second, 10K, 2K. Stochastic avatar? If not, I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. But who do you think are going to be our three most exposed stacks today? If anyone gets this, I'll be impressed. But maybe I won't. Los Stories, you were up there, brother. I know. You had another 5K win. You're one of the people I was going to talk about. Yeah. Yeah. Cubs, Rockies, Nationals. So I was wondering, is it going to be Cubs against Flaherty? Is it going to be Detroit against Tyon? More than anything, you got a game in Colorado with a 12-run total. Is it going to be Washington against Kyle Freeland or Colorado against Alvarez? I will say Alvarez is a lefty and Colorado has just been terrible against lefties. Sotex, tools are helping me for sure. Took down a quarter jukebox Saturday. Awesome. I say it all the time, dude. Some of the people that have had the most success using these tools are doing it in the mini max, you know, like the $3 20 max and that type of stuff in the quarter jukebox. It doesn't have to be the flagship contests at all. I think sometimes people assume that like, oh, well, I don't play 150 and the $20 every day. A lot of our subs don't, man. It's why we have the single lineup sims. It's why we have the core packages, you know. Clayton, San Fran's my pivot off of those games today. Interesting. Really? San Fran, huh? I mean, certainly not saying you're wrong. But Waka's not bad. I know he got tuned up in a couple of starts there, but Waka's not terrible, especially on this slate. San Fran does have a monster total, though. And I think the other things we have to consider is it's Kansas City. It's like 90-some degrees. I think it's 95, 96 degrees at Kauffman Stadium today. A little bit of wind blowing out. That game does have a 10.5 total. It's one of the highest on the slate. You have that at 10.5. You have Wrigley game at 11. The Coors game at 12. Those are the three highest games on the slate. So let's give it a shot. Let's see what we've got going on here. Most five-man stacks. Washington against Freeland. Not shocking whatsoever. I like it. I want to pull up the data hub to see what the value looks like on some of these teams and the top stack probability. But I don't hate it at all. At all. Washington hasn't been bad against lefties. 7th in WRC plus. 167 ISO is top 10. Those are good enough numbers. 337 WOBA, 7th. I get it. Arizona is not one that I would have expected. That is not a spot that I would have expected against Jeffrey Springs. But you know what? They don't strike out. Maybe it makes a little sense. Detroit against Jameson Tyon. Boston. We are getting some Boston. Not a ton, but 6% five-mans against Shane Baz. Probably getting a combined 11% of Chicago against Flaherty. What you can really do, though, is if you go in the lineups and you can look at your full stack exposures, we are incredibly spread out. I'm running no uniques, by the way. None. No uniques. So outside of 30% Detroit and 29% Boston or Washington, which is obviously a lot, right? We're very spread out amongst everything else. But clearly that's a ton of Detroit and a ton of Washington. And a lot of Arizona. Let's look in the data hub here and see what it's telling us. Let's go to the top stacks tool and look at top stack probability. Washington's up there. Detroit's up there. Colorado's up there. But outside of Washington, these teams are very similar today. There's no real gap. Stack score, Detroit, Washington, San Francisco. There you go, Clayton. Decent stack score. Are we getting a ton of them? Not really. 7%'s not bad, though. Fifth most exposed stack on San Francisco, tied with Boston. So that's not crazy. They're there. Decent pivot for sure. Ownership. Here's the big one. 13% to Washington or to Detroit. But again, this is what I was talking about earlier in the show. When you have 14 games on the slate, when you have 28 teams going, there's no one that's really just going to get a ton of ownership. Look at this. Outside of Detroit, you have 8%, 8, 7, 5, 4.5, 4, 3.8, 3.6. If you have a team you really like as a pivot, you're going to get them at very little ownership. San Francisco, with a 5.5 run total today, has a 4% ownership share. That's really low. Only on a slate this big. Detroit and Arizona look good for value. Houston looks pretty decent against Jansen Junk. San Francisco looks okay. But outside of Detroit and Arizona, nobody runs away with it. So I think if we were to look at our individual exposures, things may come into focus a little bit more. So let's pull this up and see what we got. You know? Let's see. Donald Duck, does a 20K win? Oh, yeah, I saw your 20K win, man. Congrats. That'll be up there. Does a 20K win with the avatar get you a free month? Of course it does. Of course. Anthony, with a 20K win, you don't need a free month. You don't, but you still get it. We keep our word. All right, so let's see. Let's see. Clayton, I'm having a hard time buying the Arizona projection. They have a 5.3 run total today. It's pretty high. I mean, among all of the teams on this slate, Clayton, it's the 7th highest. So, 7th highest team total on the slate among 28 teams. It's up there. So it's really not so much projection. The team total is at 5.3. I want to see what our actual exposures look like, though. Harry Ford, Gabby Moreno at 13, Yanier Diaz 11, Carlos Narvaez 11, Cal Raleigh 10. Very spread out at catcher. Very. Hold on a second. My wife's texting me. All right. I mean, look, just a lot of Washington here. There's no surprise. Chaparro, 37%. Torkelson against Tyon. Bush, 11. Devers, 10. McKinstry, 33%. Ketel Marte, 21. Nunez 15, more Washington. Colt Keith 27, Arenado 13. So, you know what? Look at this. All exposure. Chaparro's 37%, McKinstry's 33%. We're not getting insane amounts of anyone. You know, you've got Ohtani, which is funny because anytime we have any of these slates, it's like, oh man, Shohei Ohtani, you're getting 50% of him. But are we getting any of him against Sanchez? Nope. Nope. So this is where we're at. The night slate should be fun, right? Matter of fact, how big is the night slate? Let's see. 3-gamer. That's not bad. 20K up top, though. 20,000 up top for the night slate. It's pretty good. And obviously with these Sims, in case you guys were wondering, look at this. If you wanted to run the Sims, you have it for the turbo, you have it for the night slate, like all of these slates. And we have showdown slates as well. So all of these slates you can use the tools for. Same with the data hub. You can use this for everything you can think of. Same with the single lineup sim. It's not just like, oh, you get the tools and now it's one slate. No, whatever slate you want to play, you got it. Anyway, I think we're in a position now where if you were looking at some kind of low-owned stacks that look good, look at stack score here for a second. Ownership's going to Detroit, some Washington. San Francisco, Clayton, you're on to something. Third in stack score, only 4% ownership. Colorado, I'm always interested in just because they will have those crazy games at Coors Field. Kansas City against McDonald, I don't think is crazy. Sub 4% ownership. Stack score is up there as well. But San Francisco might be your best pivot there. And we are getting almost 2x the field right now. But aside from Detroit and Washington, it is going to be spread out. The one last thing I want us to look at before we get out of here, I want to see what happens if we were to just cap Miserowski at like 30% and cap Dylan Cease at 30%, just for the sake of seeing what we get. Weathers comes up a lot. Kirby comes up. So there you go. Kirby, that tells me that Kirby does in fact look very good. He's just getting pushed back or pushed down because of Miserowski and Cease, but he still looks very good. Any other slate, George Kirby is mega chalk, and I still like him. Peyton Tolley comes up. DeGrom comes up a little bit, but seeing Kirby come up to 25% to me is very interesting. Also, we don't have any inclement weather risk from what I saw. Like no real risk of storms or rain or anything like that. Just some hot games with some wind. You know? Mets and the White Sox, they might be the best stacks. No. I mean, again, this is what I always come back to. If you're trying to, so many things have to go right. Like not only do DeGrom and Miserowski have to be bad, but also you still need to get enough production out of those stacks to make them viable. Despite the fact that they're getting no ownership, which is true, certain teams aren't getting ownership for a reason. Unless maybe you're trying to make a different point and I'm misreading it. But like, I just have very little interest in getting to the Mets or the White Sox on a slate like this. If I were going to one, it would be the White Sox over the Mets. But Like, you need so much to go right. It's not a 4-game slate where Miserowski and DeGrom are both 80% owned. Then you could make that argument. But on a 14-gamer, it's like you need them to be bad. You need the stacks to be good, but you also need the stacks to be good enough to where they're better than some of these other fantastic stacks, even some low-owned fantastic stacks. That is a tough one for me to get to for sure. For sure. Not sure I would do it. Anthony, Cubs game has some storms. I saw that, but last I looked, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, obviously, it's what? We're not even at noon yet, so things can change throughout the day. We'll have a better grasp on that, but I'm seeing pretty low likelihood that that game has any real risk. We'll see. But right now, I'm not super concerned about it. I'm showing a 0% postponement risk in the data hub right now too. By the way, for any of you guys wanting to get the Sims for free, there's another link in the description. You can actually get a month of core Sims for free. Just click that link where it says it. Sign up with any of our partners, whether it's sportsbooks, if you're in legal sportsbook betting states, or pick'em sites, or like Onyx, which is a sweepstakes book, 40 plus states, spend 10, get 100 in Onyx cash. So not only are you getting the sign up bonuses, but you're also getting a free month of the Sims. And also, guess what? Every one of these equals an additional month. You can free roll for months on end. Choose one of these. You got to click it. Otherwise we can't track it. Sign up. And for those of you, anyone in chat who has done this before, let people in chat know. It's a very simple process. Because I think sometimes people are like, I don't want to do this, and then email them. I guarantee you, you'll do it and go, wow, that was painless. You sign up, deposit $5 or $10 minimum on all these spots, place a bet or a pick'em lineup, and when it's over, when it settles, just send us a screenshot at support@stokastic.com with a screenshot of your welcome email and your first settled bet so we can track it, and tell us what you want. Hey, can I get a month of MLB? Got it. Hey, I signed up on Onyx and BetMGM. Can I get a month of MLB and a month of PGA? Got it. It's that simple. So use that if you haven't done so yet. See, Sotex, it is very simple. Done it several times already. That's what I'm saying. Super, super easy to do. And no joke, not only are you getting the bonuses, upwards of like $100 in bonus funds on some of these sites, but you're also getting, you know, Sims subscriptions, like $150 a month subscription. So anyone who ever says like, oh, the tools are so expensive, not really. There's so many ways to get discounts or grab them for free. Tiffany, Ron makes the process super easy. Yeah, Ron's great at that. Anyway, good to be back. Glad to have you guys here. I missed you all. We love you all. Be back tomorrow, 9-gamer on Tuesday. This is a big one today. Live before lock coming up later. Stick around for that. As always, MLB Strategy gets you 15% off anything, including all access. Max, core, weekly, monthly, all access, does not matter. Link down below, or if you're watching on X, just use MLB Strategy. And I intend on seeing some stochastic avatars atop the leaderboard today. We'll see you guys back here soon. Let's have a great week and start it off tonight. Bye-bye.